Let's get into module number 2, week number 2. This is the introductory video I am shooting to replace the last introductory video where I was wearing a different shirt and longer hair. I want to go back to week number 1 and just remind everybody that we have the general resources for the class there. You may need to refer back to those at different points during the semester, so I don't want you to lose touch with that information. It is extremely important, including the syllabus. I had a couple of people reach out with questions asking for clarification. It's never too late to ask for clarification. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. This week, we have a lot of stuff to do, of course, so let's go ahead and get into it. After this, we hit the next button, moving on. We have the OER Chapter 4, more about fiction. We did a little bit of Chapter 4 in the first module, and we're moving on into what is fiction, short stories versus the novel, character, plot, and setting. This week, I do have an embedded quiz in the video that comes after it, so we hit next here and we have a link to that embedded quiz. So it is another short video that I kind of discuss some of the aspects of chapter 4 about literature, and there's some questions within that video. We move on to chapter 10. We're getting into our first school of literary criticism. This one is formalism. We're going to examine it, we're going to look at it, and then we're going to actually see somebody doing it. I know. I am excited too. Right here, we have Hurley's critical review of Young Goodman Brown's Heart of Darkness. Last week, we read Young Goodman Brown. This week, we have Paul J. Hurley actually doing a formalist review of it. I have a little introductory video on that. And then the link to the actual Heart of Darkness review is right there. Then we have M-2 OER Chapter 12, Finding Literary Criticism. I kind of wrote a little bit as opposed to doing another video, and then the link to how to perform literary research is right there. Whenever you get an assignment, especially within literature or academic writing, the first thing you want to do is do research. That is huge in kind of edifying your knowledge base, getting more information, finding out some context. I think sometimes students might treat research as things that they go out and decorate their papers with, as opposed to actually utilizing it to edify their papers and help substantiate their points. The first thing I do when I get an assignment would just be make sure I know as much about it as necessary. Do additional research, get some context, find out who's already written different ideas about the subject matter, and it kind of helps me develop my ideas and also see what's out there for me to utilize as research. So this is specifically about how to find literary criticism. Then we get into Charlotte Perkins Gilman, The Yellow Wallpaper. This is a short story, one of my favorite short stories. I'll talk more about that in a video. And then we have our first assignment for Candide. It's the first 8 chapters. We have an essay prompt number 1. The prompt is utilizing the idea of canon, which we discussed in 1.1 from last week. And I also have a video from Harold Bloom, who wrote the Western canon. And then I am giving you the essay prompt right here. This is the essay prompt for essay number 1. We are going to do a couple of things with that. You have this week to write this essay. There's no place to turn this essay in right here, right now. But we are going to be turning it in on Monday next week for a workshop. So next Monday, this is going to be due in workshop form, meaning just a rough draft. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now, you will get points for how many pages you turn in. It should be 5 to 7 pages. You'll get 20 points per page, up to 5 pages for 100 points. That is on Monday. Within that same week, at the end of the week, you're going to turn in the final draft of that essay. So in a normal structure, we would have 1 week to do the workshop. We'd have 1 week to finalize the essay. Because this is an accelerated class, we're going to do the workshop at the very beginning of the week. and then you have the entire week to finalize the essay. The final draft will be due at the end of the week. So the essay is being assigned right now. You have this week to get a rough draft going, and then we can revise it, finalize it next week while we're working on that rough draft workshop. All right, moving on from the essay prompt, we have a discussion about the canon. Now, this is trying to set up our discussion and give us some framework for what we're going to write in essay number 1. This discussion prompt asks you to write a brief post arguing what standards should determine whether a literary work is taught, preserved, or treated as canonical. Now, this is kind of helping us frame the ideas, getting our discussion going, evoking some thoughts so that we can better attack essay number 1. So your task is to write a discussion post before the end of the week. Then, after you write that discussion post, you're going to go back and you're going to look at other students' discussion posts, and you're going to respond to at least 2 of them. So you'll get 50 points for the discussion post, and then you'll get 25 points for each of the discussion posts that you respond to. And that is this assignment. So that is our week in a nutshell. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, send me an email, drop by the office hour. All right, thanks.